Hello everyone, this is Jack. To avoid any confusion, since we moved episode 13 to the front of the line, we wanted to give you all a heads up that this episode was recorded before both Deacon's trip and before our Patreon went live. Both of these things have since happened, so please disregard any mention of them in the future tense. Also, for our Patreon supporters and tiers that include end-of-episode shoutouts, we will begin reading your names off with episode 17 after these pre-recorded episodes go live. Thank you for your understanding and continued support. We really couldn't do this without all of you. Now, without further ado, please enjoy the show.
Call of the Void contains strong language and possible trigger warnings and is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Deacon.
Hi, I'm Jack.
And welcome to Call of the Void, a podcast about all things weird and macabre.
So, how you doing, Deacon?
I am okay. I am just getting over being sicko, and
You sound much better.
I do. I'm very happy.
Yeah.
I don't sound like I'm literally dying.
No. I mean, you sounded okay, like, the last episode that we recorded, but you definitely sounded like you were a little bit under the weather, at least.
Yeah.
It's good to have you back at 100%, though.
Yeah, I'm very, very, happy and excited to not be sick anymore.
Yeah. So, Deacon.
Yes.
I was thinking today, because both of us have kind of, from the places we come from, we have, some really interesting urban legends, and I thought we'd talk about those today.
Yes. I know North Carolina personally has some really weird ones.
I'm especially excited to hear the North Carolina ones, because in passing you've mentioned one or two before, and I'm like, yes, those are so cool.
Yeah, North Carolina is just weird in and of itself.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
Okay, so I kind of want to start off with one that I'd always heard as a kid, but I never realized originated in New York. So everybody's kind of heard the one about the alligators in the sewer.
Yes.
That originated in Manhattan, and I never knew. When I first was like, yeah, I think we should talk about, local urban legends, I was like, you know what, before I say anything, I want to kind of look up stuff to see if there's anything I missed or something I'd never heard before. So I went in and I found the alligator in the sewer thing, and it was like, oh, this originated in Manhattan, which is kind of cool in a way.
Yeah.
For people that are unfamiliar with this, and I don't think there's too many, but the legend goes that a bunch of kids got baby alligators as pets, and then when they couldn't be taken care of anymore because they got too monstrously big, they were released in the sewers, and then that caused a bunch of problems.
Yeah.
It's not entirely true. There have been a couple of cases, in the newspaper, I want to say back in the 1930s or something like that, a really long-ass time ago, where they were, where people claimed to have seen alligators either in or around sewers. There was one where, a group of teens pulled one out of the sewer and then proceeded to kill it, which, why the fuck would you, just leave that alone?
Yeah.
Like, if I see an alligator, I'm walking away. I mean, I'll call animal control or something, but I'm not touching that thing. Like, that's a dinosaur that's still alive today.
Yes, but I mean, on the plus side, you know that you don't have like adolescent evolved samurai alligators in your sewers, and that's great.
Okay, but if it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Alligators, who would
No. Very distinctly and legally different. Adolescent evolved samurai alligators.
Adolescent evolved. What is it?
Samurai alligators.
Adolescent evolved samurai alligators. Okay, so then who would be their sensei? Because it couldn't be a rat.
It's a gerbil.
I made the mistake of taking a sip before I asked you that, after I asked
His
you
name
that
is
question.
Sawdust.
Sawdust! That's adorable! I'm picturing a tiny little gerbil and a gi. Oh, God.
And the four alligators are named after famous composers, so like Mozart and Beethoven. Yee.
I like
You're
this.
welcome.
I like this a lot. No,
You're welcome.
No.
Very different and legally not the same thing. I had to just stop you right there.
Oh my God. Oh, we're on some silly shit today.
Speaking of
Yeah.
weird reptiles, I suppose.
Yes.
So in North Carolina, there is a large man-made lake called Lake Norman, which you may or may not have heard about.
I have not, but I had a bird named Norman when I was a kid. So.
One of the largest man-made lake in North Carolina is called Lake Norman, and it is very close by to where I am. I can get there within like 2 hours, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It is usually referred to as the Inland Sea of North Carolina. There's like 500 miles of shoreline.
Oh.
Yeah, it's real big. There's like sand and stuff, and they've made it into like a little beach area. But apparently, there is a air quotes monster fish that lives in the lake.
If I ever come to visit, remind me never to go to this place.
It's so they named it Normie.
Okay.
A lot like Nessie.
Okay.
But because it lives in Lake Norman and not Loch Ness, it's called Normie. But the first accounts of it were reported like 40 years ago. It's just a giant fish apparently. But yeah, like it's been seen over about 50 times. There's a lot of speculation about how big it's grown or whatever, but yeah, it's like super duper huge, humongo, like fish boy. People assume it's just a giant like catfish.
A giant catfish? That's almost worse.
Yeah, like people just assume that it's a giant catfish that's just been able to grow and grow and grow. Some people have referred to it as like a 3-humped like being or like fish thing, sort of like Nessie, but a lot of people just assume that it's just a gigantic catfish that's just been allowed to grow for a really long time. But yeah, a lot of people just think that it's a very large catfish. But some people say that it's like 20 feet long or so, and just like huge.
It's like I don't know if this was ever a problem by you or whatever, but like I actually don't know if it's a problem by me, but I read this thing once about how people like were releasing their goldfish into giant bodies of water.
Yeah,
and I saw, for starters, like, I think I've said it on the show before, actually, like, I have a really bad aversion to fish to begin with.
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever seen what a giant goldfish looks like, but it is disgusting. So, I'm horrified.
Well, like I said, other people claim that it's a breeding population of alligator gar, which are a fish that can reach about 10 feet long and weigh up to 300 pounds.
Huh.
So, if it's just a bunch of those in like a cluster, then that could explain why people think that it's so big and that it's a sea monster. But yeah, so we possibly have a giant sea monster in a lake.
Have you ever seen the what is it? Shit. The Doug movie with Herman after Herman Melville?
I don't know.
That might have been, I hate to say it, because, like, you're not that much younger than I am, but it's funny how, like, just a couple of years makes, like, a whole big difference from, like, what you watched and stuff as a kid.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you know Doug Funny, like, the show Doug?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a movie that they did where they discover a sea monster, and they name him Herman after Herman Melville because he seems to be like, he seems to like the book 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, on the plus side, every account of this, like, giant fish that lives in Lake Norman, he's apparently friendly, so...
I mean, I still don't want to meet it.
But, I mean, that's, you know, a lot of the ones that are here are, like, weird-ass, giant, weird animals and shit. We have some others that aren't necessarily, but, you know, one that I'm not going to talk about in depth, because, you know, you'll know why in just, like, a second.
Okay.
So there is a very, very, very local urban legend of a creature called Nobby.
Okay.
Which is like North Carolinian Bigfoot. And Bigfoot is bullshit.
Bigfoot is bullshit. Bigfoot is bullshit. Deacon Frostgrave 2019 now.
This is episode 3 of me talking about how Bigfoot is bullshit. But yeah, like we have our own. Yeah. But yeah, we have an air quotes Bigfoot, that is usually spotted around like where I live and around a place called Kaiser, and Dirty Ankle, which is why I brought that up before the show. It's just a funny name for a place. But yeah, it's usually found around there, and people talk about it all the time. And there's like, sometimes you go to the fair and they're selling like Nobby merchandise, and I saw Nobby, and Nobby is real, and all that shit. And they have like vinyl stickers and shit. No, please don't. Please refrain. But no, like there's all kinds of like stuff about Nobby here, and it's the dumbest shit because Bigfoot is bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Hi, I'm Deacon, and I'm Jack, and welcome to Bigfoot is Bullshit.
Yep. The show within a show where we talk about Bigfoot and how he's bullshit. If you're keeping track, if you're playing the Call of the Void drinking game.
Yes, which we don't condone excessive drinking, and if you're gonna, like, make sure that you are being safe and you don't drive and all that good stuff.
But, yeah, so, I mean, a lot of the ones we have here, like weird creatures and shit. I don't know about yours. Yours are probably more about serial killers.
Actually, yes, there is. Sometimes
just taking a shot in the dark.
Like, here's the thing, and I've told you this before about how it's funny to me how I'm such a, like, reclusive, introverted, asocial person, and yet I am so happy to be living in a city. But yeah, like, that's one of the hazards our urban legends have to do with serial killers and shit. But, like, there was this one, and I know I've mentioned this on the show before, but there was, like, I think I've mentioned I grew up on Staten Island. I lived in the same house for, like, a really long ass time. I've since moved, but yeah, I grew up on Staten Island, which is also part of the reason why I'm so familiar with, like, the urban legends and, like, what's haunted there and everything. But yeah, there was this documentary done called Cropsey, and like, the initial urban legend, let me look it up. I have a page pulled up, actually, that talks about it.
I have super, like, you've talked about it a lot, but I've purposefully not looked up anything on it because I'm like, eventually she'll tell me.
Yeah, like,
so...
honestly, I kind of want you to watch the documentary. It used to be on Netflix. Unfortunately, it's not anymore, but it's, but yeah, the documentary was done by Joshua Zeman and Barbara Brancaccio. But yeah. Another documentary, though, that Joshua Zeman did with a different partner, Rachel Mills, is on Netflix, and I highly recommend it. It's called Killer Legends, which, ironically, is about the origin of certain urban legends. But yeah, so I'm reading this off of the New York City, the official guide website. If you attended summer camp on the East Coast, chances are you know some iteration of the Cropsey legend. He's the revenge-obsessed boogeyman whose wife and son died in a fire started by careless kids, and who kills a camper every year on the anniversary of the tragedy. In other versions, he died in the fire along with his family, and it's his ghost that campers need to worry about. Yeah, so the Cropsey legend, it kind of turned out to be true in a way. It wasn't some guy whose wife and son died or anything like that, but, a whole bunch of kids started going missing, and I forget the year, I'm sorry. I don't think I want to say it was sometime, I think it was sometime in the 80s, like the 70s or the 80s.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a bunch of kids started to go missing. Some of them were, or maybe all of them. I think all of them were developmentally challenged in some way or another. And yeah, and they found this guy who, like, I forget the guy's name offhand, but he, like, to this day, he swears that he didn't do it, and everything, but, like, there's some pretty hard, like, circumstantial evidence, at least, that, points to him But yeah.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, so, like, a bunch of kids actually did start to go missing, and, like, this guy was, a former employee of, Willowbrook Mental Institution, which became the College of Staten Island, which is the college I attended and dropped out of. And, you know, yeah, and the College of Staten Island, the campus, is supposedly super haunted. Like, super haunted. Like, there are people who state that, like, they've seen, like, especially around at night, like, they've seen just, like, these spectral people on campus. Like, I've talked to people who have said that they've seen it. But yeah, Willowbrook was an awful, disgusting place where there were, like, a lot of abuses, and, like, the kids, and this is, like, for real, like, this part, like, this isn't a legend, this is for real. Anybody who's familiar with Geraldo Rivera, yeah, this was his big break story. Like, he wasn't the first one to, I am so sorry that I forget the name of the woman who originally wrote about it for the Staten Island Advance, but yeah, Geraldo Rivera did this big expose on TV, about it, and that was, like, his big break thing, and what really launched him into, like, kind of superstardom. And that footage is included in the documentary, and it's, like, it's really fucking hard to watch. Like,
yeah,
it's one of those things, like, I've watched that documentary, like, a whole bunch of times, and I don't look, like, every single time, like, I just kind of look away, because I can't, like, it's horrible. And a lot of people died there, and, like, there were a lot of, like, they were super understaffed, and they had way too many, like, people there to take care of, and it was just really, really awful. But yeah, the Cropsey maniac thing kind of turned out to be true, and it's really, really awful.
No.
But
I guess that's why I never heard about it, because I've never been, like, camping before. I've never been to a camp.
Yeah.
So
that's the best part, because I actually was not, I went for a great deal of time without hearing about it at all. Like, I heard about it for the first time when I was in my early to mid 20s. Like, I was hanging out, I was staying over a friend's house one night, we were just, like, flipping through the channels, and then she was like, yeah, there's this documentary on Netflix if you want to watch it, and she starts telling me about it, and, like, and she's talking about, like, oh yeah, it's that urban legend that we always heard about, and I'm like, I've never heard about this. And the best part is, this is my buddy Kat I'm talking about, who's awesome, but, like, Kat is originally from Brooklyn, and she heard about it, and I didn't. And I asked my father, who is a native Staten Islander, about it, and he had never even heard about it, so that's really, really weird to me. But yeah, like, I'm very aware of it now, but yeah, it's a really awful, terrible thing, and I do highly recommend the documentary, because it's a really, really well done documentary if you want to know more about it. But, speaking of movies, I kind of want to move on to something a little bit more lighthearted. The Exorcist.
Yes.
So
I like how you wanted to move on to something more lighthearted, and you went to The Exorcist.
Exactly. So this one, I said to you, when I first brought up the idea, I said to you that there was one that I kind of had a personal link to.
Yes.
This is the one. So,
oh God.
My older brother, he initially went to Fordham University for college. And one night, he he couldn't sleep, like, when he first went there. So he just, like, he goes out into the hallway instead of, like, tossing and turning in bed, and he decides he's just gonna go use the bathroom. And there's a guy outside the bathroom that he just starts talking to. And it's like, yeah, you know, like, I can't sleep, and they're talking, and then the guy goes, yeah, the reason I can't sleep is because I heard that on the top floor of this dorm, they filmed part of The Exorcist. Which is true. They did film part of The Exorcist there, and, like, one of the, because it's a Jesuit university, one of the priests, one of the faculty members, was actually in the movie. But apparently there are some people that feel like the link to The Exorcist is why it's haunted or something, but, like, there's this legend.
Wasn't the Exorcist movie, like, extremely cursed?
I don't remember if it was, like, I know that there were some movies that,
because I know, like, Poltergeist is one of them. Poltergeist was entirely cursed, like, from start to finish.
Which one was it? Was it Poltergeist that used, like, actual human remains as props? Because
cannot remember.
I don't remember, but there was a movie that they used, like, actual human, like, bones as props, like, as scenery, like, in the movie, and a whole bunch of people died, like, horrible deaths that were associated with the movie.
Whenever like with Poltergeist, whenever they did the original script, there was a lot of issues and a lot of stuff kept happening, and, like, lights almost fell on people and killed them, and, like, that kind of stuff, and there were a lot of, like, really bad things that were happening. And then they did a remake. They did the remake of the Poltergeist recently, within the past couple years, and it was entirely cursed just because it was related to fucking Poltergeist.
That's
like, literally insane. They had a plethora of just bad shit happening. It's the same thing with The Crow. Every single time they've tried to do another Crow movie, it has been a disaster because people keep dying or getting hurt, or
that one was fucked up.
But I think The Exorcist is one of those movies that is, like, extremely cursed.
Yeah.
And, like, everything relating to it is cursed.
Yeah. I'm from the same website. I'm reading a thing. So, like, this is part of the urban legend I'm reading right now. The Bronx's Fordham University is home to many harrowing tales, including this one collected in haunted halls, Professor Libby Tucker's book of college ghost lore. Late one night, a resident assistant was alone in a dormitory and found all the mattresses in the building standing upright. This being a Jesuit institution, the RA called for a priest, fearing the influence of the supernatural. At about 2 a.m., a Jesuit clerk knocked on the RA's door and told him he'd dispatched the evil spirit. The following morning, the RA spoke to the school's head nun, who apologized for not sending anyone to investigate. Cue spooky refrain. But, this paragraph goes on to say later, that some people think that because they shot scenes from The Exorcist there, that was a part of it. And faculty member and priest Father William O'Malley played Father Dyer in the movie. Tucker theorizes that the famously cursed film may have given rise to the legends. Some people think they raised or summoned a demon on that shoot, she says. Maybe it was left behind. So, like, I remember my brother telling us about this, and I'm, like, crying. I'm laughing so hard. that was... I don't know if that would keep me up at night, to be honest, if I found out. Like, maybe the first night going like, oh, shit. But then after that, like, eh.
I would be like, that is extremely cool. I'm going upstairs. See you later.
Mm-hmm. But that was the other thing. In that building, like, I think it was the 4th floor that they shot some of the scenes in. It was completely, like, cordoned off. Like, you could not go up there. And it was still, like, I think the kid said to my brother that, like, allegedly, like, they hadn't touched it, like, since the movie was filmed. So, like, everything was still kind of set up the way that they had it.
Yeah.
But you could not go to the 4th floor. So, like, but I mean, that might be my reaction, too. I've told you about that. Actually, it was in our 2nd episode when we were talking about things that scarred us as kids, and I said that when I was 5 years old, I saw a scene from The Exorcist and laughed my ass off, and then 10 years later, when I was in high school, I was like, what the fuck was wrong with me when I was a kid?
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I would have probably found a way, but but no, like it's one of those, like, I really like the Exorcist movies, and
yeah,
it's yeah.
I should probably actually sit down and watch it. Like,
I like them. They're interesting movies. Like, and then you've got like I don't know, they've made a bunch more, like The Exorcism of Emily Rose and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, these aren't as good.
Yeah, there was I mentioned in one of our last episodes that Jen turned me on to BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yeah.
And they apparently, like, one of the things that they covered, I forget the girl's actual name, but one of the cases they covered was the inspiration for the exorcism of Emily Rose.
No.
Yeah.
Well, to move on to another cool urban legend, I guess, and I probably won't talk too much on this one, just because it's one we've vaguely talked about before.
Okay.
The Devil's Tramping Ground.
Yeah.
It's in Chatham County near Bear Creek in North Carolina. And everybody in North Carolina has heard about this place. Apparently, for like hundreds of years, apparently, there is a big circle with like scorched earth around it. Like, there's actual scorch marks in the ground. And it's like a 40-foot circle that has no life growing in it. There's life around the circle, but it stops abruptly once you get to it. There's no leaves in the circle. There's no trash. There's no nothing. Like, it's weird. And apparently people say that it's where the devil enters the earth and paces and dances when he's plotting evil.
I mean, that just...
all of the air quotes.
All of the air quotes. But, like, in my head, I'm picturing this silly little goat-looking man just, like, traipsing about, like, hee hee.
Yeah, steepled fingers, like,
yes.
All
of the evil I shall do.
I came to North Carolina to plot how I was gonna destroy the earth, I guess. Which makes sense, I guess. But apparently, there is, like, the area, like, has, like, a weird, strange vibe to it during the day.
Yeah.
And I've known a couple people who have gone out there and have camped, like, in the circle. Which, again, like, if you camp in the circle, if you put anything in the circle and go to sleep, when you wake up the next morning, like everything will be out of it again.
Yeah,
like it's been moved.
Satan shows up and he's like, hee, time to, god damn it, who put this shit here?
Yeah, so a lot of people have camped in the circle and will wake up the next morning to find their tents have been moved outside of it.
Yeah. I suspect we'll be talking about this one yet again if we ever get around to talking about, like, stuff we'd like to do if we could become investigators.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool, but also, like, it's on private property and it's trespassing, so just,
well, we would be getting permission if we did it. But
us. Anybody listening, like we've said before.
Yeah, like, don't trespass.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Trespassing's not
illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal, and it's
in North Carolina will get you shot.
Yes, and it's a gateway crime.
But
I just realized that was kind of good for a number of reasons, and I'm a little mad at myself.
But yeah, so apparently people have brought dogs, which is something I haven't known about, but some people have brought dogs to the area, and dogs will just bark at the circle and refuse to get close to it.
You know, every time I watch a horror movie and there's a dog and the dog is refusing to go in the house and this otherwise incredibly well-behaved pup is acting up, and these stupid people are like, I wonder what's gotten into Mabel. You know, like...
Yep.
And all I can think of is that this poor dog is like, you fucking idiots, stop. No, don't go in there. What are you doing? And then the dog dies, and it's like, well, I died for your sins.
Tried to warn you.
Like, if I had an animal, and especially an animal that was normally well-behaved, and I'm like, hey, this is our new home, and then the animal's like, fuck this, I'm out, I'd be like, okay, so maybe it's not our new home.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I didn't know the part about the dogs. Like, if you bring a dog, they'll bark at the area and refuse to get close to it. Like, that's one part of the story that I've never heard before. Mm-hmm. But I do know, like, I know people who have gone and have camped in the circle, and they have said that whenever they woke up in the morning, their tents were somehow moved without them being aware of it outside of the circle.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I would love to do one day, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, I have some feelings about that, but that's for another discussion and another episode.
But another cool thing about North Carolina that probably, well, most people I think have heard about this one at the very least. Are the Brown Mountain Lights.
What's that? I've never heard of that. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so there is a place called it's Brown Mountain, but you can go to a Brown Mountain overlook. Usually it's usually around like 9-10 o'clock ish, once it starts getting really dark. Yeah. Later into the night, you'll see some weird orbs that rise above the trees and start dancing. There are a lot of videos of this all over the internet. You can look it up, but there are... this is one that I have personally seen. But yeah, it's like a bunch of lights that sort of seem to like dance as they walk for a little bit above the mountain, like above the trees, and they're different colors and different sizes, but yeah, it's just lights that dance along the mountain. Some people say that like according to the website that I'm looking at, which is onlyinyourstate.com, but park rangers who have served in this area for years have even more harrowing accounts. Some claim the lights have some sort of intelligence, almost following onlookers while never getting too close. Another rare account involves a man reaching out to touch the light. Immediately he collapsed to the ground, not even remembering why he was there or what had just happened. So there's been debate over whether it is marsh gas, because it is in a swampy area.
Yeah. So would it be a case of like the marsh gas is making people hallucinate these lights?
Well, I think more along the lines of it is little balls of gas that are floating up, and like the moon is hitting them a certain way to make them look like dancing lights.
Oh, okay.
When they're not.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because some people have reported a really bad like sulfur smell.
Yeah.
Other people say that it's aliens, and other people still say that it's lingering Native American spirits, because there was like apparently a historic battle there. But yeah, but this is a legit thing that you can just go do. And I've seen it for myself. It is real. It exists as a thing.
Of course you've gone to look at it.
Yeah, it's a I don't know what the phenomena is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's causing it. I don't know if it is something supernatural or what, but it is a thing that you can do. You might have to go like multiple times to see it, because it doesn't happen just every night. It happens whenever they feel like it, I guess.
Whenever they feel like it.
Yeah, whenever the lights decide they want to pop up, they pop up. Because it's not an every night thing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess that gives a little bit more credence to it's possibly just the moon reflecting off of swamp gas.
Mm-hmm.
But also at the same time, like, we don't know for sure. But yeah, it's real. It's a real thing that you can really go to and you can really see. There's another like light thing that's kind of close to here. It's the Mako light.
Another thing I've never heard of.
Yeah. It's apparently there's a story of there was a conductor who was trying to, there were two trains that were going on the same track heading towards one another.
Yeah.
And he pulled out a lantern to try and signal to both trains to stop.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
Ooh.
And it ended up decapitating him because he was like on the track.
Ooh.
The two trains collided into one another and it hit him in such a way that it decapitated him. And apparently, if you go to the train tracks in Mako, you can see someone or what looks like a lantern swinging back and forth up the track, and it'll walk down or like get closer and closer and closer to the station, and then it'll disappear once anybody gets close to it. This is another one that I have seen.
I was just gonna say, did you go look at this one? Because I feel like
I have seen this one.
Yeah.
There is a light that like swings back and forth. It's almost like an orange lantern looking thing, but it swings back and forth as though somebody's walking down the tracks, and then if you get too close to it, it just vanishes. It's gone. A lot of people claim that it's the conductor looking for his head.
That's really sad.
And that if he ever finds it, then he'll be able to move on. But there's almost always people looking to like catch this light. So there's like a very distinct point that it won't go past, because like I said, if you get too close to it, it vanishes. So I've never seen it get too close to the station.
What do you mean catch the light? Like they think that they're Link and they're trying to capture it in a bottle like it's a Poe or something like that?
Well, I don't know. There are people who want to like see it and record it and be able to say that they saw it while they were there or whatever.
That's the thing, because like the reason I said that is because like if you get too close, like I don't know, I don't think you have to be that close to catch a light on camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but people want to get close to it to investigate what it is, and then they start walking towards it, and it just disappears. And then there's no more light, and people are like, what the fuck? So this is one that we don't have a logical explanation for, but I have seen this one. And it is a thing. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is some mysterious conductor looking for his head in the afterlife, or...
Has anybody ever offered to help him look?
I don't know.
Because he might stick around then.
I have no idea. But it's an interesting story, and it's something that I think is pretty cool.
That's something that I'd like to, like, dive into actual, like, town records and stuff to see if there's anything that would substantiate that, especially since there's no logical explanation for why there's this random ass light that's just there. Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing. It's a light that just kind of comes down a railroad track. And I don't know how real that story is. I don't know the validity of whether or not there was actually a train, two trains that collide with one another or whatever.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, there's a super local legend here that's it's not real. But it has spread around forever. I talked about it before, but almost every single, like, state has at least some variation of this story of, like, someone wrecked their car on a bridge, and they, like, if you go to the bridge and shut your car off and go around it a couple times, then the spirit will come up the river and blah 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 or whatever. We have one here, and I hate that this place is called this, but it's called Blue Bitch Bridge.
Oh my god, is that the real name?
Yeah.
That's
it is
the real name, like the official on town documents.
Well, it's not a recorded place. Like, okay, so this is like...
I wish you could see the look on my face because my eyes just went like super wide for a second.
This is a one-way street that used to go behind my high school.
Okay.
It's since been shut down entirely. But there is a bridge there that's a one-way bridge that goes over a creek, and it's a fairly deep creek. But apparently a woman crashed her car off the side of the bridge, because it didn't have like the two side thingies on the bridge to like keep you from going off. This was like a really, really, really old bridge and a really old road.
Yeah.
So she went over the side, and she and her baby drowned, apparently.
Ooh.
And if you go to the bridge and shut your car off and go around it and say, blue bitch, I've got your baby, then she'll like come up the river.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's real bad, and I hate it. But there's that kind of shit. This never happened. This isn't a real story. But people refer to this bridge as that and talk about this story all the time because it's like a local legend, and I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's those kind of stories that like a lot of people are like, I don't know the validity of this because it sounds plausible, but this is a story that really didn't happen. Like the one that I was just talking about it's not a thing that happened. It's not real.
Yeah.
But people claim that it is all the time.
We got some beyond belief shit happening right now.
But yeah, like, so, like I said, I don't know the validity of that story, but I do know for a fact that I have seen the light with my own 2 eyes. I've seen the Mako light. It's really neat.
I mean, yeah. That's fascinating. Like, New York has some, like, you know, ghost stories. Like, there's this, like, one of the really famous ones that I first heard of in, an episode of CSI New York is, like, there are these 2 sisters that, like, during the winter or whatever, in Central Park, they have, like, this ice skating rink. And, like, the legend is that, like, if you go there, sometimes, especially, like, when nobody else is there, you can see these 2 women in Victorian clothing ice skating. And the legend is that, like, they were these sisters who loved to ice skate, and they both died like months apart from each other.
Yeah.
And that because they both loved to ice skate so much that they, you know, wound up haunting the ice skating rink in Central Park because they lived in Manhattan. And, yeah, and they just go and do figure eights there. And that, and then the other part is, like, that they'll, like, try to skate at you if you go on the ice with them. But, like, that's one that I kind of would like to go see for myself at some point. Like, I've been to Central Park at night during the winter, but you also have to be kind of careful because the park closes at a certain time. Like, it's not just open forever and always. So, you could be arrested if you go there, like, super late when the park is closed.
Hide in the trees.
Right? But yeah, I don't even know. I'm not sure if it's like the frozen lake or the ice skating rink now that I think about it, because there very much is an ice skating rink that they have set up there, but it's like the one time that I was there, that I was hanging out, like, I didn't go ice skating, but, like, I was there with a couple people, like, and we were watching the ice skaters. Like, it's pretty popular. Like, so
yeah.
I don't know if it's, like, the frozen lakes that are there or if it's the actual rink, but yeah, like, that's one of the urban legends. There's also this, like, there's also one about, like, this ghost ship on the Hudson River that, like, is an omen that if you see it, like, you're not supposed to go out on the water because, like, something bad will happen. There's a couple of, like, piratey ones, actually.
I want to see a ghost ship.
Me too. Like, me too. But, like, so there's that one that, like, yeah, like, it's supposed to be a thing, like, you know, whenever there's, like, a storm, you can still see it, and some people say that, like, you could hear the, like, you could hear the captain, like, barking orders and stuff. There's, on Liberty Island, allegedly, like, Captain Kidd buried treasure. So, like...
Speaking of,
yeah.
Did you know...
Yeah?
You probably did. Did you know that Blackbeard died in North Carolina?
I didn't, actually.
Yes. Edward Teach, his ship is wrecked off the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
It's still there?
Yeah, there's a shipwreck there that exists.
Like,
it is Edward Teach's ship.
You can go see this with your own 2 eyes.
I guess. I have been to the Outer Banks before. We didn't go to it. But they talked about it, like, the entire time that we were there. But yeah, like, that's a really cool thing that Edward fucking Teach, Blackbeard himself, lived in North Carolina and died here.
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff about Blackbeard's ghost being off the coast of North Carolina.
I was just
like
gonna say,
lot about his ghost.
Yeah, like, that's something that I'd love to go see.
Yeah, that's incredibly cool.
Mm-hmm.
Which a lot of people say, but like that you can see like, you know, Blackbeard's ghost ship on the ocean and stuff, which I think would be super cool.
Yeah, I would love to see a ghost ship. I mean, like, next time it's stormy, I'm just gonna go take a trip out and just look at the Hudson. But yeah, like I think I've told you this before, maybe even on the show, but like Sleepy Hollow, like Ichabod Crane is in the story. Ichabod Crane is absolutely a fictional character and everything like that, but he shares a name with this like military guy that died and is buried on Staten Island. So whenever it is that you come up to visit, if we wind up on Staten Island at some point, because I know I've told you that there's a bunch of really haunted places that are allegedly in my old stomping grounds.
The devil's stomping grounds.
So,
truly.
Like, yeah, I mean, Staten Island's, like, when you said before about, like, North Carolina, like, Staten Island's a very weird place. Like, it's a very weird place. But yeah, like, Ichabod Crane, the actual real-life Ichabod Crane that probably was the namesake of the character from Sleepy Hollow, is buried on Staten Island. And I know which cemetery it is, because it's one that I have passed by many a time in my life, so... Yeah.
Well, like I said, we will see.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, also, that would, if we do wind up doing that, that would also require a lot of driving on your part, which I kind of don't want you to do, because... Yeah, you got a lot of driving ahead of you. So
yeah, I mean, this is gonna be like my first trip up there.
Exactly.
So we'll see what all we're able to do.
Yeah, like I would much prefer you have a nice, fun, relaxing time in New York.
But let's see. I'm trying to think of any other ones that we've got around here. I mean, there's your standards, like I've always said, you know, you have your dumb, like, oh, if you park on the road and turn your car off, it'll start to drift uphill. And we have a place called Gravity Hill here, which is I don't know. Again, it's another one of those things that, like, I don't think is real.
I mean, that's like, better than Blue Bitch.
Well, yeah, but, you know, Gravity Hill is a place where, like, again, if you park at the bottom and if you put baby powder on your back window, then, like, you'll see handprints on the back of the window pushing you up the hill.
It's always baby powder.
But, you know, it's one of those places. And then, you know, you've got your, like I said, you got your standards. your normal, like, hey, there's a bridge that if you go underneath it, like, you sometimes see a girl there on the side of the road, and if you pick her up and try to take her home, then she disappears out of your car because she was actually dead and she died in a car accident like 20 years ago.
One of Reaper's favorite things to say is, like, whenever, like, he'll just say it at, like, random times, like, okay, so, like, we were watching TV one day, and I went to go, like, grab something, to my side, and I didn't realize how close his chair was, So, like, I kind of, like, bumped him when I did that, and he was super engrossed in a game that he was playing, so it startled him. And I was like, he's like, what the fuck? What was that? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I just hit you with my hand, like, and he just looks at me with this creepy voice. He's like, but your hand died 10 years ago. Like, that's a thing he'll do now. So yeah, like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
I wish Staten Island had one of those.
Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of like weird bridges and stuff that are like there's one in Asheville called Helen's Bridge, which apparently there's a story that a young mother hung herself from the bridge after her daughter died in a fire.
Yeah.
She is said to be seen in a long gown and will ask about the whereabouts of her child. The strangest connection to this legend is that there have been multiple reports of car trouble at the bridge. Many say that their batteries die, or that they have some sort of like car trouble after going over the bridge or whatever. But there's also been like all kinds of ghosts like seen around this bridge and stuff. So who knows, but it's like you have your normal like shit like that like almost every single place has. But we do have one that's kind of interesting. We have the Beast of Bladenboro.
That sounds pretty legit.
So apparently back in 1954, there was a large amount.
That's the year my dad was born.
There's apparently a large amount of dead livestock and animal mutilations that were being reported in the area of Bladenboro.
Okay.
All of the animals were found with their jaw either broken or removed, and all of the blood drained from their bodies.
Okay.
So a lot of people said that it was chupacabra.
Yeah.
But eyewitness reports described it as the animal that they've seen attacking the livestock as resembling a panther or an overgrown cat. But so the town banded together and tried to kill it, but there's been no results in 50 years. For 50 years, the town hasn't been, they haven't seen really any of they haven't seen the cat thing appear again. But it did pop back up in 2006.
The only animal thing that I can think of, from like my childhood and what I remember like stories of, the only thing that I can think of offhand is, but I think this actually happened. Like, because I remember my dad telling me that like he knew somebody who like this happened with or whatever, but like that there was this like there's this I took a picture of it, like of this place years ago like in my super early 20s. Like there's this area where there are these houses, and it's on this like nice little lake, and it's very scenic and very pretty. And I think that's the place that my dad was talking about, that like when he was a kid, like somebody he knew like dropped piranhas in there or something like that. But like, yeah, like that's the only animal thing, because I've never heard past my dad's story about any issues with piranhas. So
yeah,
like that's the only like close thing to an animal urban legend I can think of from, when I was growing up.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, this thing, the Beast of Bladenboro, apparently popped back up in 2006. Same attacks, same description, everything. pop back up like 50 years later. And there are still sometimes mysterious attacks on livestock.
You know, I just want to tame this thing and be its friend, right?
We need to call Newt Scamander. Be like, buddy, some of your fantastic beasts are loose. But yeah, like, apparently it's a thing. I don't know. I don't live anywhere near Bladenboro, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Oh.
But that's a pretty famous one that I've heard like a good bit in my lifetime about this area, you know. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of like weird shit, and most of it is somehow related to a weird fucking animal in some way. Like, oh, we have a big fish monster or whatever. But yeah. Or like I said, some standard ghost story that is told by basically everybody.
Yeah. A ghost story that is from everywhere.
From everywhere, all at once. But yeah, like it's about it. I mean, we've also got like the weird mountain stuff.
The weird mountain stuff.
We do. We have the weird mountain stuff, which like the Brown Mountain Lights and all that stuff. Yeah. We also have a place called Rowan Mountain, which is I think it's like 5 miles. It's a mountain that stands on the border of North Carolina and Tennessee. Okay. If you go to the top of the high mountains, top of this high mountain, according to this site, known for its strong winds, reports dating back to the 1700s speak of the strange voices that can be heard from the peak. While everyone could hear the sounds, no one could seem to agree what they sounded like. Throughout the years, the voices have been described as everything from heavenly singing to demonic wailing. Some say that Rowan Mountain is where angels gather to sing, and others say that it holds the very echoes of hell. So who knows? But we have like weird mountain shit.
Maybe. Now
maybe it's just the wind.
Or okay, shame the day. So maybe. Now here's what I think about that. So what if this is a place where you could go to, and depending on what you hear, you can tell if you're gonna go to heaven or hell.
Depending on if you hear Yanny or Laurel. But no, I mean, it says in the story, itself, it says atop this high mountain known for its strong winds. So part of that just tells me, hey, it's the wind, bud.
Okay, but what if you go up there and all you hear is like, ah! Oh no, I've killed you. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's fair. Yanny!
Did you see Pro ZD, his Yanni or Laurel thing? He's like, oh, time to see what I hear. And he plays it back and it goes, fuck you. And he just goes, I heard Laurel. Oh, I love that dude.
Oh god. But yeah, so we have weird mountain shit, and we have backwoods Bigfoot, and yeah, like that's basically all we've got here, as far as like,
and you know, yeah, and just monster fish.
Yeah, monster fish.
What does it say about me that I am willing to go meet Blackbeard, but I refuse to go near where there might be a catfish that's just a little bit too big?
I mean, the thing about the Lake Norman or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a place that people go as though it's like a beach.
Yeah.
Like, they go and they swim in this giant lake that they claim that there's a giant fish in. A giant fish that could probably literally swallow you whole.
Hard pass. Hard pass.
That's why I was saying, like, people claim that it's friendly and that they've, like, seen it and it's like a friendly thing that, like, swims around with you and stuff. And I'm like...
Like, the only way...
It sounds more terrifying than you think it does.
I mean, if it, like, granted me wishes and shit...
Like the,
Imagine some, like... some dipshit like me just shows up and is like, okay, so here are my demands. And the fish is just like, that's not what I do.
Like the, what was it, the Sky Maid or whatever from Flapjack?
I've never...
Keep wishing, Flapjack, and all your dreams will come true. Even the scary ones? Yes!
I was thinking more The Simpsons when they're in the fish factory. Please, sir, spare me my life and
But yeah, so apparently people swim in this lake that they think that there's a giant ass fish that could eat them.
Nope.
So I mean that's you know,
I'm too much
North
of a
Carolina
slicker for that shit.
But yeah, so my place is known for like weird animals and shit, and yours is serial killers.
Serial killers and The Exorcist.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's about all the time we've got for this episode. Oh man. Before we go though, we would like to give the biggest of shout outs to our friends over at the Fierce Ferrets website, fierceferrets.com. Bat and Gideon are wonderful human beings, and you should definitely 100% check out their streams at twitch.tv/fierceferrets, and you can check us out and some of their other podcasts. The Last Light is a Starfinder game that we play live on Tuesdays on their Twitch, and that we put up later on for podcast listening. And then Drunk Fandom is a thing that we're going to be recording soon, TM, the second season on. And we get drunk and talk about a fandom to somebody who knows nothing about it. So
my recording session is coming up. My first of this season is coming up very soon. Very, very soon.
Yeah, same. I'm trying to rewatch the thing that I'm going to be talking about, and I'm trying not to binge watch it because I want to have time to like write down notes.
Yeah,
but I'm going to have a lot of notes.
I'm going to be finishing it up, playing the game I'm talking about this week. So yeah, it's harder to do when you have to take notes, and my brain that I have I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but I have obsessive compulsive disorder, which means that my brain is like, but you have to take all of the notes, and I'm like, but I'm not gonna use any of this, like, I'm just gonna, like, I only need to really know, like, one important thing, and my brain is like, no, you need to take all of them. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I want to make sure that I get everything, and I'm probably not going to talk about everything, but yeah. I'm trying to like watch through everything. But yeah, so we'll be doing Drunk Fandom soon. Season 1 is up though, and you can listen to me personally ramble on about Kingdom Hearts, and
I talked about the Chronicles of Riddick, and also Marble Hornets, and I have the longest episode in Drunk Fandom history because of Marble Hornets. Yep. Oh god.
But
one more thing before we go, just a reminder, we have a Twitter account and an Instagram account if you would like to follow us there. Both of them are at the COTV podcast. So we'd love to see you there too.
Yes. Also, if you have any suggestions for future episodes,
yes,
please feel free to let us know, because we are only two humans and can only think of so many things to talk about. So if you have something out there that you want covered, or some weird ARG or something that you want us to look at on the internet, let us know, and we will definitely do our research and do the best that we can.
Yes.
Also, hopefully, the next couple weeks, we should, fingers crossed, have a Patreon set up. Yes. So if you guys would like to help support us, consider becoming a patron on Patreon, and we will do our best to keep providing some quality content. But like I said, we will see you guys in the next episode. And until then, sweet dreams.
Bye.